David Maddox, political editor of The Independent, here in our luxurious lobby office in Parliament on another exciting day with my fantastic colleague Millie Cook, our political correspondent, who hot-footed it over from Downing Street, where she's been covering the amazing events today. I hope you've all seen her video. If not, you should definitely see it. She's
thanks, David. This day has been about 4 years long.
Let us start with the big first shock, and I'm going to say here that I'm very glad that I wrote a post for our blog, which has been covering today's events in detail, early this morning, with a warning that all the briefings you've seen about who's going to get what job may turn out to be hot air. And lo and behold, it has turned out to be hot air on the Chancellor job, because a man none of us expected to be Chancellor is now the new Chancellor of the Exchequer running economic policy. Over to you.
I mean, they have pulled a bit of a fast one with that, because there's been so much speculation over the last few weeks about who could be Chancellor, about the pros and the cons. I mean, we've done our fair share of runners and riders, and it's a really shocking move. And I think it's a really sensible one to make John Healey Chancellor. I think that Andy Burnham has talked about a lot of things, but something he hasn't spent huge amounts of time talking about is defence. And some people have expressed concern that he hasn't got huge amounts of foreign experience himself. And I think that putting someone like John Healey in the role of Chancellor, he's been so critical of the Treasury that it shows that he's happy to take on some of those problems. And also, obviously, he resigned from Starmer's government over a row over defence spending, and it shows with the Treasury, and it shows that Burnham can offer him something that Starmer couldn't, which is an agreement on defence spending. And I think it's a real vote of confidence in Burnham's mission for defence, because Healey is not someone who would return to any government without a clear promise on defence spending.
So I think we should be aware here that John Healey was an Exchequer Secretary in the Treasury in, I believe, Gordon Brown's government. So he has Treasury experience. You're absolutely right. His resignation letter, which was so critical of the Treasury when he was Defence Secretary, and this was a thing, of course, which finished Keir Starmer off, over a £13 billion shortfall in defence spending. And then, of course, we found out another £5 billion black hole in what had been agreed. But he was so critical of the Treasury in that. He talked about the dead hand of Treasury, its inability to see that defence was a driver of economic growth and things like that. This is a man who's going to spend and won't be afraid to tax, I suspect. He comes from the middle of the party. He's a solid, non-factional politician, respected by both the left and the right. He has a trade union background. He's seen as a very sensible individual. Had he picked Ed Miliband, that was siding with the left of the party, the soft left in particular of the party, would have been a sign which would have made the markets much more nervous, I think. But had he gone to Shabana Mahmood on the right of the party, a woman who last Christmas was effectively being feted as a possible leader of the party by none other than Tony Blair. We did a story on Sunday, which led our website on Sunday, which I think has explained why she's missed out on the job, because she wanted to cut tax, she wanted to cut welfare. She was not a fan of Rachel Reeves's tax rises and all these sorts of things. So I think we actually managed to nail why she's not got this job and why he's gone for a compromise candidate, somebody who thinks very much more along the lines of Mr Burnham. And Mr Burnham, I think, has shown that he is his own man.
I think also the more we're talking about it, the more I think he has. I don't want to speak too soon, because obviously he might go on to be a terrible Chancellor. But on paper, it feels like he's played a bit of a blinder here. Politically, it's just such a good move because of the way that it appeases both sides of the party and also solves a problem for him, which is massive question marks over how he's going to fund defence and whether or not he's going to do it properly. And even just having Healey in there will sort of hold off some of those questions.
Well, of course, Andy Burnham as well, we understand anyway, is very much wanting Downing Street fingerprints on economic policy. He doesn't want the Treasury to have the power and control that others have allowed, especially Keir Starmer. One of the great criticisms of Keir Starmer was to completely devolve that sort of responsibility to Rachel Reeves. And frankly, a bit like Starmer himself, ended up not being good enough for the job. But let's look at the two candidates who lost out, the two favourites for the Chancellor job. Are they winners? Are they losers? Millie, of course, has got an excellent piece that's going up shortly on the winners and losers, possibly tomorrow morning. But
stay tuned.
Stay tuned. But let's start off with Ed Miliband, because we did a story on Sunday Splash actually on Ed Miliband getting the Foreign Office, but it wasn't so much a kind of compensation for missing out on Chancellor. There's a very serious job to be done here. They want to reform foreign policy. They want a roadmap back to 0.7% of GDP on international aid. It's been reduced to about 0.2% by Rachel Reeves, with no idea of returning back to that. They want changes on Middle East policy. They want changes, I think, on Brexit, which you and I are going to be talking about again, I suspect. So I think Ed Miliband, you're a big fan of Ed Miliband.
Famously.
I think it's a really good choice.
Yeah, I agree. And also I think I imagine personally for him, it's a great position, because not only is it one of the great offices of state, it also, what you're talking about with the Foreign Office, he is such an ideological zealot when it comes to the climate. And Britain, I mean, comparatively is a smaller producer of emissions compared to major global economies. In a role like Foreign Office, a lot of the best work that Britain does when it comes to the climate is actually being a climate leader on the global stage, talking to other countries at events like COP, making sure we're leading the way with different climate agreements. And as Foreign Secretary, even though your entire brief isn't just energy, you actually can make a huge difference when it comes to negotiating deals, having conversations, even just those backroom soft skills things. It's one of the best roles for that, and I think it is, especially with the Reformed Foreign Office, could be a really powerful role, especially in that mission when it comes to the climate for Ed Miliband.
No, you're absolutely right, and of course restoring foreign aid eventually could be very much focused on the climate goals, and I think that's going to be a big attraction for Ed Miliband. But in some ways, the bigger shock is who's not lost their job, who's staying in their job. Shabana Mahmood at the Home Office. I mean, MPs on the left, the people who were cheerleading Andy Burnham, are not going to be happy, are they?
No, it puts him in quite a tough spot. I mean, obviously he's flip-flopped a bit on his position on immigration. So he at some point criticised Shabana Mahmood's policies, and then later, as it became clear that the dial was shifting, he then said that he would sort of keep her policies in place. But obviously Andy Burnham doesn't want to annoy too many people. He doesn't want to do another Starmer where he effectively swings too far to the right, or he spends too much time appeasing right-wingers. But then I think getting rid of her and unpicking some of her policies, that would also put him in a tough position. So maybe continuity in the Home Office is a good choice, because it just means he can leave what's already there that's quite right-wing, and then not add anything else, and sort of win some of the points that he gets from her policies.
So I think this is a Makerfield test appointment, because Andy Burnham's gone to a pro-Brexit, or what was a pro-Brexit, working class constituency which was targeted by reform and was getting heavy support for reform until he turned up, and clearly worried about immigration. And I'm willing to bet this came up a lot on the doorstep, and I think that despite dozens of Labour MPs on the left writing to him asking for a softer approach and to kind of unpick a lot of what Shabana's done, he's probably thinking, actually, it's been pretty good that she's brought all these numbers down, that she's actually made progress where, others haven't. And I want more of this. I want to keep my constituency in Makerfield happy, because my constituency in Makerfield represent vast areas of traditional Labour support which reform are targeting and winning in potentially. And I don't want to cede this ground to Nigel Farage. So I think that's going to be the reasoning behind it. And in fact, again, probably a very good, if not surprising, appointment by Mr Burnham. Now, we have the issue of bringing back people with clouds over them into
Louise
government.
Haigh.
But let's start with Louise Haigh. Another one. I'm going to blow the independence trumpet here, I'm afraid. Where this is our hat trick of getting it right. A lot of speculation or a lot of stories about who's getting what job are often wrong, but we knew this one was right because it was well sourced. Louise Haigh is Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster. Is fantastically kind of archaic title, but she runs a cabinet office with that, and running the cabinet office is running the engine of government. It's become an increasingly important job. This is no minor job. Is basically she's not going to be deputy prime minister, but she's effectively the deputy to the prime minister. The deputy prime minister will almost certainly be Lucy Powell, who's deputy leader, but Louise Haigh is going to be the one who's in Andy Burnham's ear. She's going to be his closest ally, his closest advisor, as she has been for the last year. She was, admitting the other day that she'd been involved with him in plotting to replace Keir Starmer for over a year. So, she's got a beefed up role, which also will pull in policy and may well pull in economic policies where she's in favour of wealth taxes. But, and I'd like you to address this, she lost her job as Transport Secretary under Keir Starmer because of issues around her past.
Yeah, she lost her job because it emerged that she had a fraud conviction from a previous job where it was around a mobile phone. So she was slightly complicated, but effectively she said her phone was stolen, turns out it wasn't actually stolen, and so she got given a second work phone. And it was all a bit muddy. It ended up being quite confusing, and there were kind of people saying that she had more than one phone. And she sort of argues that, the conviction's spent, and that it's all over and the matter's closed, but she did have to resign from government. And I think that whenever you bring someone back, there will always be conversations. It will re-emerge. And I think that the one thing that Burnham risks here is sort of dredging up some of the muddiness from Starmer's government. But then I would say with the Louise Haigh stuff, I wouldn't say that at the time people did seem to kind of give her a bit of forgiveness with it. I don't think that the public opinion was sort of overwhelmingly against her. I think that some people were sort of on the fence about it, and I imagine this is the sort of thing that people would, if she does a good job, and if Burnham's government does a good job and it isn't muddied by other scandals, I think that it's the kind of thing that people would continue to forgive.
Well, I should say that she feels very badly treated by Keir Starmer. She felt that she had addressed all the issues with him before she was appointed to frontbench roles and then Transport Secretary. She was a very effective Transport Secretary, actually, who managed to renationalise the railways before her departure. Much underrated.
She's a good political operator as well.
Very
speaks
good
well.
operator,
She's likeable.
Yeah. So she says there was no new information at the time. She was just ditched unceremoniously because she was too left-wing for the Starmer government. Of course, that is a he says, she says on that sort of issue. But she's not the only one with kind of murky issues to come back. As we speak, Angela Rayner is waiting in Downing Street to find out what job she's got. Won't say what it is here because it might be video out of date, but clearly she had to resign as well.
Yeah, Angela Rayner left over her tax affairs.
Yeah.
She's another one where I think public opinion was quite split. She resigned over her tax affairs because it was sort of found at the time by an internal investigation that she didn't quite do enough due diligence on it. She's now paid back the money to HMRC. But it didn't find that the investigation didn't find that she was purposely misleading anyone. There wasn't sort of subterfuge happening, or she wasn't actively trying to make money off it. And I think that's the crucial thing, and that's why her public opinion on it didn't seem to be too, again, against her. So again, she's another one that he could probably get away with bringing her back, but again, it's always a risk when it comes to bringing someone back who resigned from a previous government, especially a previous government that was so marred in difficulties and scandal like Keir Starmer's was.
For me, both these ladies are very talented women who both felt unfairly treated. They're both on the left of the party, or often termed soft left, not the kind of Corbynite hard left, but the kind of soft left of the party. I think what Andy Burnham's saying here is that he's not afraid of personalities. He's willing to give people second chances, and he doesn't want talent excluded because of how people think. He's made that very clear. But talking about exclusions, no reshuffle is complete without a proper purge.
It was a proper purge as well.
It was a proper purge. I mean, hard day for some people.
Yeah, it was Darren Jones, Steve Reed, who else?
Peter Kyle.
I'm trying to think.
David Lammy.
Not forget David Lammy.
I mean, we're going to miss David Lammy.
So smiley even on bad days.
It's so very nice man, very good for memes, but you know.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, it was just one after the other. Jenny Chapman went as well, and it was just throughout the afternoon. Burnham was just getting rid of anyone who had close ties with the Starmer government.
Yes. Steve Reed was a particular one, and you picked up on his resignation letter.
Yeah, he made an interesting comment in his resignation letter, talking about disloyalty to Starmer, saying that people showed disloyalty to Starmer showed loyalty to me, so I'm going to do the same to him. And he commented on. He said he hopes that people who showed disloyalty to Starmer, that sort of this new government doesn't show disloyalty to them effectively. And it was quite the word that probably uses, it was quite a catty thing to say, I think. Barbed. Yeah, it's probably a more appropriate word to use.
And David Lammy clearly wanted to stay in government and was told his surplus to requirements.
Yeah, Rachel Reeves, obviously, there was some reports that she was offered a big job in government. That's what her allies are saying.
We believe it was defence, which would have been, I mean, that would have
been a weird move.
That would have been a delicious move politically to have
having a man who
resigned. So for a long time, just to explain this, for over a year, the Defence Improvement Plan was sitting on Keir Starmer's desk because he was unable to make a decision. Another reason he's no longer Prime Minister is inability to make decisions. But the argument was between John Healey as Defence Secretary, who wanted more money, and Rachel Reeves as Chancellor, who didn't want to give them any money. And the idea that those two would then effectively job swap.
It's very funny.
Would be hilarious. And I can only... I mean, we will never know now because Rachel Reeves has said she doesn't want to serve in Andy Burnham's government, but oh my goodness, that would have been fantastic.
I pay good money to hear those conversations. Behind the scenes having a right giggle about the idea of Rachel Reeves in defence, having John Healey saying...
Would John Healey be saying, you can have lots more money? No, please. Fiscal rules.
Yeah, she'd be like, I don't want all of this money. What are you doing?
What's he doing? What's supposed to do with money? I think I think some of the younger ones, Darren Jones and Peter Kyle, I think it's a pity they've gone. They're genuinely talented, good politicians. I suspect they will be back at some point.
I think he probably just needed a clean break from Darren Jones because Peter Kyle I'm less sure about.
Yeah.
Obviously he was a Starmer ally, but I don't think he's sort of inextricably linked to the Starmer government. Darren Jones, however, I think he was wheeled out so often to defend the government's failings that I can sort of see, I think it's a shame, but I can sort of see why he did it. Just to get him out for a bit, maybe I'll bring him back in a couple of months in a sort of ministerial role.
But there we are. So there is a lot more to come, a lot more drama to happen. We'll have several days of ministerial appointments. As I was saying, always expect to be shocked. There's always surprises, and I suspect that John Healey will not be the last surprise.
It's true. Got the cabinet meeting tomorrow as well, so we'll see what they all get up to.
Well.